Predators within the publishing industry are ruthless, heartless, and vampiric in their ways. And I'm not just talking about the blood-sucking aspect. Yes, they are proficient at sucking money from the wallets of authors. But they also have a side effect of damaging the very lifeblood of hope and creativity in the authors they trick and lure. They are immortal and impossible to destroy because of the billions of dollars they collectively suck out of the pockets of writers that allow them to continue to evolve and adapt. And they have a way of mesmerizing authors, even brilliantly sharp, witty, and intelligent authors, with their powerfully convincing charms.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 421 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. Today's episode is going to have a very brief introduction, not even going to do comments or personal update, but I'll get to that right after this word about this episode's sponsor and, the bumpers and all that fun stuff. This episode is sponsored by Manuscript Report. Manuscript Report is an absolutely amazing tool that I've enjoyed using in order to get sales copy, keywords, press release information, comp titles, comp authors, themes, tropes. You can pull all of this information from Manuscript Report just by uploading your report. It is currently priced at $35 US. It's regularly $49.99, but you can save $5 off using the code MARK5. That's MARK5, and you use that at manuscriptreport.com. And in about 15 minutes after you load the report, you'll get about a 21, 23, 25 page report that will give you a lot of these details that are fantastic in terms of better understanding the target audience and the specific marketing techniques that you can use for your books. You can check that all out again at manuscriptreport.com, and to save $5 off, use my affiliate code, MARK5. That's MARK5. So as alluded to, this is going to be a brief introductory podcast. I am in a hotel room in Sudbury, Ontario. My best friend Steve, who was in a recent episode, as well as my road trip buddy. We've been besties since we were in our early teens. Unfortunately, his mom passed away this past Sunday. I'm in Sudbury with Steve and his brother Jerry, who flew in from Victoria. And we are all just kind of hanging out together. The rest of the family's here. Later today, just in a few hours, is going to be the showing and the funeral. And I'm up here to show my support and my love for this awesome family and a wonderful woman, Mrs. Gatos. So that's it in terms of personal update. It was an unexpected trip. I had to adjust some things in my calendars, but you do these things for the people who are important in your life. And anyways, I'm not going to get into any of the personal update stuff. I know there's some great comments that have come in. I will be reading those when I'm back and landed. And it's going to be weird because I travel to Philadelphia for the American Library Association conference next week. And of course, I'll have to figure out when I'm going to do that next week's episode. Maybe it's another one on the fly from a hotel room, or maybe, who am I kidding? I was going to say, maybe I'll plan ahead. Oh, that doesn't happen much. But what you're going to get in this episode is you're going to get some content. Now, I'm using my 11 Labs voice for it, as I wanted to generate it relatively quickly. This is some excerpts from my book, Publishing Pitfalls for Authors, and I'm going to be, starting at the top. Of course, I start at the top of the book. I'm skipping the introduction because I want to get into the meat, and you're going to hear, Predators, I think it's an important element we need to be aware of in the pitfalls. These are all the P's of pitfalls for publishing, as well as pace and just some of the ones obviously at the very beginning of the alphabet. Because I wanted to give you some food for thought. I wanted to give you some value, and I thought this was the quickest way that I could provide you some value, some reflective thought based on content from one of my books, and also, of course, show off the voice, the Mark Leslie Lefebvre voice that is now available for anyone to use in the 11 Reader app. You can pick a book, any book, and you can choose my voice to listen to it in. And I've already made, I think I've made about $35 off of my voice use as well. I figure if someone's going to license my voice, it may as well be me using it. But anyways, this is in the voice of the Mark Leslie Lefebvre from 11readers.io. But that's coming up right after this bumper. P is for predator. Predators within the publishing industry are ruthless, heartless, and vampiric in their ways. And I'm not just talking about the blood-sucking aspect. Yes, they are proficient at sucking money from the wallets of authors. But they also have a side effect of damaging the very lifeblood of hope and creativity in the authors they trick and lure. They are immortal and impossible to destroy because of the billions of dollars they collectively suck out of the pockets of writers that allow them to continue to evolve and adapt. And they have a way of mesmerizing authors, even brilliantly sharp, witty, and intelligent authors, with their powerfully convincing charms. As mentioned in the introduction, the elements of publishing pitfalls are in alphabetical order to make it easier for writers who wanted to jump around rather than read the book cover to cover. But it's important to spotlight up front a significant pitfall that can affect all authors regardless of which publishing path they choose. There is a complete chapter on predators later in this book, exactly where it should fit in alphabetical order. But you need to, early on, be aware of them and always be on the alert. There is no garlic or holy water or wooden stakes to protect you. Just knowledge that they're very real. And the only way to protect yourself is to be aware of just how stealthily they're stalking in the night. Pace. I've broken pace into two distinct elements. The first is pace with respect to a combination of writing speed and rapid release strategies. The second is in relation to narrative pacing. Writing speed and rapid release. There is a lot of advice floating around within both traditional and indie publishing circles regarding pace. Specifically, that writing fast and rapidly releasing your books is the only way to find author success. There is, of course, some truth to the fact that authors with more books in the market tend to be more likely to earn a larger income. But for long-term success as an author, you have to remember that this is a marathon and not a sprint. Many indie authors, particularly those who write in a series, maintain that you have to release a new book every 30, 60, or 90 days in order to properly ride or game the Amazon preference of new releases in their algorithms. This leads some authors to write a number of books that they stockpile, then release in rapid succession over the course of a few months. For example, they might get the first 3 books written, edited, polished, and ready to go, then release them about 30 days apart. One of the challenges with this type of strategy is related to reader expectation. Because unless you can write and collaborate with your editors at that speed for a much longer term, until the end of the series, for example, you're going to be setting your readers up for disappointment. If a reader is used to having a new novel in your series every 30 days for the first 3 books, then you migrate to a release every quarter, every 6 months, or once per year. You'll have set them up to expect one thing, then delivered another. They will be disappointed. It is possible to leverage a rapid release schedule that is not so aggressive that you damage your mental and physical health in the process. The key is first to determine a comfortable timeline, and then pad in some buffer time because we all know that life events can sidetrack or derail us most unexpectedly. Take your time, measure your abilities and comfort level with the cycles of completing the process, and fall into the flow that works best for you. Keep your eyes on your own lane and not on the lanes of the other writers who are releasing books faster or slower than you. Your release schedule will depend upon your actual writing pace, the process of the stringing of words together onto a page. Unless you are first beginning your writing journey, you've likely experimented enough with your writing over time and determined a pace at which you are the right balance of comfortable, confident, and efficient. Don't panic, worry, or stress about the pace that you write at. You write in a way that is working for you. Sure, it's okay to continue to experiment and try to push yourself, but make sure you can settle on a pace that works in the long run. A pace that allows you to breathe, pause, and enjoy the sights along the way. Narrative pace. While this book isn't a replacement for any of the hundreds of wonderful books about the craft of writing, nor would I dare even try to write one, the pacing or flow of the story itself that you are writing is important to attend to. And I wanted to take a moment to highlight pacing as a potential pitfall to be aware of. Narrative pacing is basically the speed at which an author tells a story. A combination of factors determine the pace, such as how rapidly the action moves the story along, how quickly the narrative provides information to the reader, and the length of the scenes. Action, description, dialogue, and narrative are elements that affect pace. Action and dialogue tend to move the story forward more quickly, while descriptions and exposition can slow the story down. An author can use sentence, paragraph, scene, and chapter length in ways that speed up or slow the story down as well. When it comes to pacing in writing, what's most important is similar to what we explored when it comes to release timing strategy. The pacing in your story should match the expected pacing the reader expects in the genre you are writing. Publishers, agents, and editors often reject stories and novels based on the pacing not matching their expectations. When you are indie publishing, the pacing you set can either encourage or disappoint your readers, particularly if it's not in line with what the reader has come to expect for the genre you are writing in. Being aware of the importance of narrative pacing and avoiding setting a pace that doesn't match your reader's expectations is critical. Following are a few helpful resources that you might want to take a look at to help you with narrative pacing. 7 Tools for Pacing. A Novel in Keeping Your Story Moving at the Right Pace. Courtney Carpenter, April 24th, 2012. WritersDigest.com. Pacing in Writing. 10 Powerful Ways to Keep Readers Hooked. Readsy Blog, October 13th, 2018. Save the Cat Writes a Novel, the last book on novel writing. You'll Ever Need, Jessica Brody, 10 Speed Press, October 2018. Plot and Structure, Techniques and Exercises for Crafting a Plot that Grips Readers from Start to Finish, James Scott Bell, Writer's Digest Books, October 2004. How to Write Best-Selling Fiction, Dean R. Koontz, Writer's Digest Books, September 1981. Out of print as of the release of this book in August 2021. Pack. One issue that continues to plague both self-publishing and traditional publishing circles is the follow the pack mentality. Historically, traditional publishing has long chased trends and earned billions of dollars from that habit. With the popularity of novels such as Ira Levin's 1967 Rosemary's Baby, William Peter Blatty's 1971 novel The Exorcist, and Stephen King's 1974 Carrie, the publishing industry exploded with a deluge of horror paperbacks. Mass-produced to meet the popular demand of bloodthirsty readers. Yes, the pun is completely intended. There were more schlocky and campy-looking horror paperbacks flooding the market through the 70s and early 80s. Publishers couldn't publish enough young adult fantasy novels to pick up on the popularity of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter craze worldwide. Sparkly yet angst-filled vampires were all the rage following the huge success of Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series. And there was a similar trend of erotic, poor rich man billionaire erotic romance novels to chase the runaway success of E.L. James's 50 Shades of Grey. Publishers claim to be looking for something new, but more often than not, they are spending the majority of their publishing dollars chasing the next hottest trend. Writers trying to chase that trend when submitting to publishers will often face a huge brick wall, because by the time something is hot, the publishers are already moving on to something else or looking for that next hot thing. What they want is something that's like the hottest, latest trend, but with a new twist. And this is difficult for writers to gauge because the acquisitions teams are often looking 1 to 2 to 3 years into the future rather than what is hot at the current moment. So, if you're a writer hoping to sign with a publisher, you could fall into the trap of always chasing those trends far too late. Indie authors similarly fall prey to those same shiny objects. First, something is hot, and an author is doing well with it. Then, thousands of other authors try to mimic what they are writing and publishing, hoping to ride the wave of a massive trend. One difference, of course, is that self-published authors benefit from being able to publish more quickly rather than be beholden to the red tape of the 4-season selling cycle of traditional bookselling. In that way, indie authors might be able to catch a wave well before it's finished running its course. But when it comes to marketing tactics, this is where indie authors often miss the ball. Speaking of balls, I'd like to use an analogy of what I've witnessed repeatedly in the indie author community since it first started to explode in 2010 or 2011. One or two authors do something new and remarkably innovative that allows their book or books to explode onto the bestseller lists, earning them unprecedented amounts of sales and money. That author then generously shares what they did, and the community clambers to mimic those tactics. Some of the early followers might catch enough of a benefit from being on the scene in time to pick up their own thrilling action. But the majority of other authors are madly chasing after that trend in the hopes of seeing similar success. I equate it to the way that a group of untrained 8-year-olds might play soccer. Instead of playing their positions, they all chase madly after the one kid with the ball. The kid with the ball heads to the far left of the field, having a blast, and delighted that they've got the ball. The whole rest of the pack is desperately chasing them, eager to get that ball for themselves. Then, another kid takes the ball and heads to the far right, and that giant mob all follows along to the right, eager and thirsty to have the same fun as the one with the ball. The pack keeps shifting back and forth across the field, a mass, almost mindless group, the majority of the players chasing and never getting the ball. Meanwhile, one or two of the kids is having all the fun and winning at this game, which looks virtually nothing like the sport is supposed to. There was a time when everyone was rushing to create a MySpace page, or a Twitter account, or a Facebook profile. In mid-2021, it seems like every author is part of the stampede to figure out how TikTok can make them an overnight sensation. And so much time, energy, and enthusiasm are spent chasing down these tactics rather than focusing on the core basics of writing or focused marketing strategies. In most cases, if you do nothing but chase these trends after the fact, you're one of those kids chasing the one with the ball. Yes, there are trends within the hottest genres, and there are unique opportunities when it comes to marketing. But make sure you don't lose focus on your position within the writing and publishing sphere, and that you're constantly playing to your individual strengths and following your unique path. Trends will come and go, things that are hot will change and morph. If you're expending energy chasing the pack, you'll always be chasing the pack. But if you play your position, you'll likely be exactly where that ball is heading at one time or another. Then, you'll be the one in control of it, instead of blindly following the pack to and fro. Packaging. You can have the best book, written, edited, and polished to perfection, and ideal for your target readers to rave about. But if you don't have the right packaging, you might fail to bring in the right readers. In other words, your cover and the description for your book need to not only be professional and align with the expectations of the market, but they need to resonate with your ideal audience. People judge books by their covers. No, it's not fair, but it is human nature. And it's something you not only need to accept, but to embrace. The majority of authors should not ever design their own covers. Yes, you might be the exception, but chances are you're not. If you do demonstrate talent in that area, you might just be falling prey to the cognitive bias of illusory superiority. This is a common human condition where a person overestimates their own qualities and abilities in relation to the abilities of other people. They default to assumptions that they are better than average. This results in the difficulty of being able to step back and see that their cover, for example, is not as great as they perceive. So how can you step back? Here are just a few suggestions of things to consider or do that might help you see if you are fooling yourself. Do you have a degree in graphic design? Have you ever worked for a publisher as a book cover designer? Or do you have extensive experience studying the market and genre? Print out the cover you created and take it to a bookstore or library. Hold it up next to the other books in your genre. Does it look like it belongs? It does not need to look the same, but it should look like it belongs. Ask other readers, not authors, readers of your genre. Be open to their constructive criticism. A book cover, of course, doesn't just need to look professional, but it needs to be aligned with the look and feel that is popular and understood by the ideal readers. Within the genre of romance, for example, there are distinct types of covers for different subgenres. A contemporary romance novel and a Regency romance have distinctive covers. So, too, will a paranormal romance and a romantic comedy, or an erotic romance and a romantic suspense novel, or inspirational romance versus steamy romance. You may not care about any of the differences, subtle or not, within subgenres, but your future potential readers do care. Your book cover needs to appeal not just to the high-level genre itself, but to the readers of the subgenre or niche. And your books, whether they are in a series or are standalone books, will benefit from a common look and feel of you and your author brand. This can be challenging if you write in different genres or work with more than one publisher. But the cover should clearly indicate to the reader what that book is going to contain. The second thing that consumers look at is the book's description, sometimes referred to as the blurb or the sales copy. Thinking of it as sales copy is a good idea. The job of that description is to convince the reader to click on the buy button when they are browsing online, or to bring your book up to the checkout desk when they are browsing in a physical store or library. If the cover's job is to capture their attention or hook their interest, the blurb's job is to set that hook firmly so you can reel them in to have to read the book. Before wasting any money on marketing, it's important to have invested the right time, resources, and money into your book's cover and description. There are plenty of services on the market available for both, and you would be well advised to investigate and research which ones might work best for you. Sometimes price can also be a factor in packaging, so pay attention to ensure your pricing is aligned to match reader expectations. If it's too high or too low, you'll be giving the potential reader an excuse not to make that purchase. There's more about that under PRICING. Okay, Human Mark is back again. I have to laugh, and I had to insert this because at the very end of that last bit, it said there's more of that under PRINCING. And it's kind of funny that sometimes the AI, it was just pricing, it was all in caps, and I don't know why it spelled it out like that instead of just saying pricing, because it was all caps. It wasn't like I don't know, how do you indicate to AI that you want it to be spelled out as opposed to being said? That's one of the emerging technologies we have to figure out, I suppose. But I had to laugh. I thought I was gonna go and adjust it, but I thought, what the heck? I'll leave it in there. It's all good. But in any case, I hope you found some value in some of those P's of publishing success. I did find value in being able to leverage the AI voice in order to get some of this content out for you. And I look forward to being back again next week with an interview and a full episode. That is what I am. And I think this hotel desk is real wood, so I'm knocking on wood for that. But I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank so much my patrons and my coffee buddies who support this podcast over at patreon.com/Stark Reflections. And I have to admit, I am behind in getting some of those rewards out to you that I promised I would get towards the end of May. Every time I think I'm going to get caught up, something sideswipes me, and thus is life. So I know y'all are patient and awesome folks, but I will be getting those rewards to you guys that I promised from the draws, etc., etc. But I do want to thank you all for your patience and for listening. And I will catch you next week and next episode. And so until next week and until next episode, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you GREAT. Just kidding. Great writing. No, what am I hoping? I tried to be funny and then I lost track of what I was supposed to say. So wishing you GREAT writing and good Stark Reflections.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.